is Catrina Walker Jones. I think I said Catrina Walker before, but Catrina Walker Jones.
Yes.
Welcome, Catrina. Okay, we're recording. Katrina, I wonder if we could start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Who are you and what do you do now? And then we'll work backwards.
Well, I'm from Warrington originally. I moved to Sale in 2002 and I married my husband, Paul Walker Jones. I'm an independent financial advisor.
Now, to stop there, what is that?
I give financial advice, but I recently became a chartered financial planner. So I give hold of wealth management. I'm also a long-term care specialist. So I give advice to families, powers of attorney on long-term care. I think as Phil was saying, there's lots of people and it's a growing elderly population and it's a really emotive area of advice. I get a couple of phone calls a week. I can't help everybody, but at least I can signpost them to the right areas, hopefully.
Fantastic. So just very quickly on that point.
Yes.
When you say you're an expert in that, do you have to have wealth to be able to be asking people for advice, or can you be in absolute debt?
Oh no, I give advice to whether they're starting out in life or they're retiring, and I do a lot of wealth planning for the future. I deal with CEOs of companies, I do cash flow modelling, what you're going to look like in retirement, what people want their, for their children's lives going forward. So it's sort of whole of life. I also work with different generations as well in my family, so which is lovely.
Okay. So how did you become that? This is sort of the professional development bit of our questions, if you like. Did you go to uni at 18?
No, not at all. So
just tell us your journey. I know you did a lot of your qualifications in night school.
Yeah, I left school at 16 and I went to the YTS. Thought I wouldn't actually go to college and ended up working as an editorial assistant on a sports newspaper. That was my first job, so at 16. Then I ended up just moving along for the money and was getting paid very, very badly, and then decided to go back to night school and ended up doing bar work for myself through college. Then from there, did very well in my A-levels and went as a mature student, aged 21, to Aberystwyth University to do English literature. And then I got there, I didn't actually enjoy it, and then took the decision to leave. And
to leave uni?
Yeah, my first term I'd put myself forward doing American studies to go to America. I was going forward on the programme to go to Berkeley, and then decided that I didn't want to do the English literature and decided I wanted to go and study linguistics. So I left at Christmas and then took a job for the summer, and then I did my degree at Lancaster University in linguistics.
Ah, good. Much better than that, right? Interesting journey for you. In doing linguistics.
Yeah.
So what was it that was so interesting about doing sort of financial planning that drew you to it, if you like?
I think the job, although it's about money, it's about communication. It is about listening. A lot of the job is listening to people. I often find them in situations where maybe husband and wife or partners have very different ideas about where they want to go. So it's trying to negotiate the best way forward for their plans for the future.
And do you often see your clients together, or if you've got one aspect of husband and wife, or husband and husband and wife is interested in multi handbags, the other one is interested in sailing, is there room for confusion?
Yes, always. So they normally want the same thing in the end, it's just how we get there, and it might be having to change lifestyle along the way, maybe not spending everything now, maybe saving for the future a little bit more.
So what are the problems with elderly care? If most people haven't got pensions, and most people don't think about pensions until they're older. So what should people be doing, and what are the issues with elderly care? Because we know we're living longer, and the retirement age will increase, blah 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 blah. But I just wonder if you could share some of those issues with us, and maybe a short you know, how you would
Yeah,
advise?
well,
parents?
I mean, the care homes around here, it's £1,000 a week for a care home, so £52,000. So people having to enter a care home normally have to sell family property to fund that. Part of the advice that I do is we do care annuities, which sort of ring fences the payment and it gets paid over to the home to pay for the care, which is contentious because often families feel that, you know, they don't want all the money to go to the care home, you know, maybe mum or dad work hard for the money, so it's just trying to find a good compromise really, so, and also to get the right level of care for them as well.
And can the state pay for some of the care? How
Well, you have no choice if the state pays. I think one of the saddest cases that I came across was a gentleman that had gifted his house to a trust through an unregulated legal firm up in Newcastle. I think he paid £30,000 for them to set up this trust, and he'd gifted his house into this trust in his early 60s and then got struck down with something like motor neuron disease, which meant he would still have quite a long life expectancy, but needed physiotherapy every day to get out of bed. So he ended up in a home, he was paying privately for the physiotherapy, and it was £1,800 a week. And the council came and said, I'm really sorry, but we can't afford to pay for this now. You know, your money's running out, we've looked at the care, so we're going to move you just to a care home, which we'll pay for, and we're going to take the trust to court. So in that time, he would completely lose his mobility, and he couldn't get the house back from the trust because there were minors who were beneficiaries, so they couldn't wrap up the trust for him. So having to have that difficult conversation to say that, you know, he lost access to his funding, his mobility, you know, and having to go into you know, under state funding while they sorted that out. So, really sad stories, and you know, and I think it's just trying to speak to people at the right time as well about their care. So.
I know you've got twins, a boy
Yes.
and a girl. How old?
15 and a half, so.
So what do you do for well-being? What kind of keeps you going? You're having these quite difficult conversations. Often you can't affect them.
No, well, their work stays at work, so we always make sure that we eat together as a family. That's really important. We try not to have conversations about school. My husband also works in quite a high-pressure job, so we tend to keep those away from the children. So, but they're at a delicate stage, heading into GCSE, so trying to keep them motivated and keeping the house moving and happy. So.
Well, so teenagers or financial planning?
Yeah.
Balance is good.
Our teenagers are okay.
Yeah.
So it's like children though. What's good one month isn't good the next month. So.
Yeah. And what about you? What do you do for your well-being?
I recently joined WI, so just having they're reopening all over South Manchester, so a young generation of WIs is opening. The one that I'm a member of is Be More. They've got a cocktail club, they've got an afternoon tea club, book club.
Sounds all right.
Yeah, running club I only went once, I have to say. So they were also good. But yeah, they do all sorts of things. We do Bollywood dancing, they do all sorts of crazy, have someone coming in making cheese for us. They have interesting speakers coming through the door. And the book club is great because we get to meet and talk about books every month, different books.
That's really good. Do you get any clients from WI?
Not necessarily, but we do get to talk about things like long-term care because there's normally people there who may be quite isolated and joined to, you know, looking after a child or a parent, and this is their only social life as well. So we also raise money for Cyril Flint. I don't know if that works in Didsbury. It's the Befrienders.
Oh, right.
So
how does it work?
they raise money for Cyril Plus. Basically, people go out and befriend the elderly or people who are isolated. And they do events with them as well, so bring them in to WI meetings and things like that. So.
Oh, we should connect with them. It's a really good
Yeah,
idea.
it's a really good idea. Yeah, so.
Now, you yourself suffer some illness, and I'm just going to ask you about how you coped that through with that as a family, and how you are now. What was the illness, and how did you manage as a family?
So 7 years ago, I was very busy with twins. They were year 4, starting year 4. It was end of the summer. Feeling particularly tired with work, quite stressed. It was a Tuesday night just before they went back to school, and I was going to bed about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I thought I was having a heart attack. So my husband rang the ambulance, and they were there very quickly, and I sat in the ambulance for 2 hours while they were doing my heart checks. And they said, "We think you've just had a massive panic attack, you know, so we can take you into the hospital now, or we would recommend you go and see a doctor in the morning." So I decided that I was okay. I felt a bit stupid, so I went back to bed, and in the morning I went to see my doctor, who was lovely, and said, you know, what's going on at work, what's going on at home? And she said, it just because, turning 40, it could be all those things that are sort of going on for you. Let's just do some broad spectrum blood tests. Could be your thyroid, putting your body under stress. So I went in the next day, was off with the kids, had a blood test done, and then I had a friend round for afternoon tea, who I hadn't seen very often, and we were just sort of having afternoon tea, and the phone went for the doctor and said, "Hi, can you come in now?" I was like, "Oh, okay." My friend said, "It's going to be your cholesterol, they're going to shout at you over your cholesterol if you've had a blood test today." So I went in to see my GP, who's a woman, so she's me, and she started to cry.
The doctor?
Yeah, she was trying to deliver me news and started getting very emotional. So I was just, okay, what's coming? So anyway, and she said, "We've had blood tests back, we've had a phone call from Trafford Hospital, and you've got leukemia. So they want to see you tomorrow, don't Google it." So then just rang my husband went home, and of course the first thing I had to do is Google it, and and there's 4 types. And it's roulette which type you have.
Yeah.
So because all they said is you have leukemia, you don't know which one you have. So so I went the next day, and they still didn't know. So I went through a couple of weeks of testing, bone marrow and everything else, and I had one of the very, very rare types, but quite slow moving, and there was a range of treatments available, which I had to choose my treatments, which was interesting as well. So they give you a choice. Choose your treatment, choose your drug, and give you a leaflet on what side effects you can have, and then started my treatment. So and I.
What did you say to the children?
Nothing, because what can you tell them at that particular time? But immediately became. Because of the treatment I was on was sweeping out white blood cells from my system and killing them off. It was working beautifully, but ended up with feeling like I had gout, normal joints, and while it left me. But carried on going to work. Work was okay. Work was actually very normal. But took a decision quite early on to tell my clients and tell the other members of the people that I work with what I had, because I just didn't want any rumours either.
Yeah.
Because someone hears you're ill, sometimes things go out of control. I'm in a job with a lot of trust with people, I look after a lot of money, so they don't want to think that I'm not going to be there the following week. So I'm 7, this is coming to my 8th summer now, and I am fortunately very boring, which is great. So I go every 3 months, and they just go, "Yes, you're boring. I don't see you again." So for another 3 months, but and that hopefully will continue as long as I don't start to reject the tablets that I'm on.
Do you have to take tablets for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I'm incurable. So which is I'm very lucky. There's I've had people. Had a woman who I used to be standing next to at football. I think even you met her, Sarah. She got diagnosed at the same time as me and was gone within 6 months of skin cancer. So it's I am very fortunate and also very unlucky at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And how has that impacted your life and your approach to life? living still?
I have to say, well, I'm not very sympathetic to people who have a cold. You know, and I feel very lucky. I'm in a very happy marriage. I've got a lovely husband, and I think, you know, I think also this sort of happening, you know, to me and to us, you know, you stop being so complacent about things may come at you when you don't expect. I'm quite honest when I'm talking to clients because I'm very passionate about people having protection, life protection, critical illness, income protection. I was really fortunate I already had all that, and I always told all my clients to have all that, and we probably get 4 or 5 claims a year for different reasons through the practice. And it's also led me to, I've also become a trustee for a charity recently.
Yes, can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I've become a trustee for the Trafford Carers Trust.
Which division, sorry?
The Trafford Carers Trust, the Trafford Carers Centre in Sale. They support the carers in the community. At the moment we're supporting just over 4,000 carers. The youngest is about 5 years old. And we support them with therapy, massage, Reiki, counselling. They've got an on-site nurse who's always available. We'll sit down if someone comes in and says they're not feeling well. They will sit there for 45 minutes and give them a thorough MOT, which they would never get from the GP. It may be, you know, go and take a paracetamol. So it's kind of a real sort of rounded service from that side. They have to aim to raise £400 a day to keep going, so we're expanding the team and bringing in fundraisers. So I'm learning a whole lot of new skill sets from that, but you know, also meeting people who are supporting people with cancer. So you know, and I'm also supporting my mum as well, who isn't very well. You know, helped my dad as well. He passed away. He had Alzheimer's. So I do understand the pressures of being a carer.
From all angles.
And I know what I would want if someone was looking after me and how they'd be supported as well. So.
Can we give Catrina a round of applause? We're not finishing just yet, but I just thought thank you for sharing that with us because it's quite powerful and impactful.
Yeah.
I know you're honest with your clients about it, but when you were going through your treatment, did you have any visual side effects?
No.
But you just felt the need to tell them.
Yes.
Really. And then was that well received?
Yeah, I think people appreciate me being honest with them. I tell them about what I do, planning for my family, what I do, you know, and you know the plans that I've got for my children. You know, I'm planning for them all the time. You know, I can't take it for granted that I'm going to be there for them when they're grown up. So I'm having to do all that planning. And when I'm talking to people who've got children, it's what do you want for your children if you're not going to be there? Have you made a will? You know, have you written your expression of wishes? You know, on how you'd want your children to be taken care of and things like that. So, and now, you know, the young adults, we do have quite honest conversations. I mean, I'm 50 this year, so I'm planning a big party because I want to make memories. You know, it's really important.
We all cook.
I'm having a cake, so
This is your first time. Take a liberty.
But I do think we are all so busy, our heads down, working, that it's very easy to sort of not to stop in your weekend and do something together with your families and you know and making memories as well. So it's really important. So.
Absolutely. Can I ask you? We always ask our guests on here 2 questions, well, several questions, but just exact questions all the time. And it's about community. We set up because Brexit was dividing us and we were disconnected. So I wanted to ask you what community means to you personally. You know, all the things you do with it, the financial community or whatever.
Yeah.
What does community mean to you? And the second question is, what would you spend £1 million on? So maybe if we start with the community first.
Yeah, I would say that community is being kind and being compassionate to your neighbours and people around you, and I think I was struck. I was in Ireland over the summer visiting family, and I was in a wine in a supermarket, and there was a gentleman in front of me. He was an elderly gentleman, and the cashier sort of said to him as he packed the bags and said, "Are you okay to take those out to the car?" And he just said, well, and they said, "No, it's okay." And they called someone over. The whole queue stood there, nobody said a word. Everyone was just so happy that they took the time out to ask him how he was, and I feel that, we are so busy that there is no time to talk to people, and even just small acts of kindness can change somebody's day.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'd be impactful in a big,
in
a big way.
And it doesn't mean about giving money; it's just maybe giving people the time and talking to them. I enjoy visiting all my clients, and I visit lots of elderly clients as well. And I think sometimes people don't have as much time to sit down and talk to them. So often they want to tell me things about their families. So I make that part of my time as well. So.
And so what would you spend £1 million on if I had it? I haven't got it. I think I need a wealth planner or a wealth manager to find a way of getting it.
Yeah, well, there is lots of, I think around Sale and, around South Manchester, there are so many good small local charities that do so much good. For say like Cyril Flint who works in Sale, befriending. We've also got a crisis of loneliness, and I think more bringing people together, however that is important. I went to the AGM of the WI, and they said that one of the reasons that they'd actually started the group was because so many women were so lonely at the school gate. They just had nobody to talk to, and that was one of the reasons they'd started us up. And that's had an impact across, Sale. So, and obviously Trafford Carer Centre is £400 a day to keep open, and I think one of the cases at the AGM last year, some family came in and was saying because of what had happened through the Trafford Carer Centre, the mother would be able to access care for support for her son. But one of the things that had happened as part of the Christmas programme, he was 14 but had never received a Christmas present, and when he received it, he didn't open it for a fortnight. He just looked at it, and then he would unwrap it and rewrap it because he'd never had a Christmas present. So community had supplied all the presents, and it just made a massive impact on young lives as well. So.
Thank you. Just a final question, really. Why do you like South Manchester? What do you think about living in the South and what its impact on you?
I think South Manchester is very vibrant, so there's a lot of interesting areas, and they're all quite different as well. I live around the corner from Ashford-on-Mersey, which is quite a small village on the outskirts of Sale, but there was so much going on there, even just for the community down there. There's lovely pockets, like the Didsbury Festival, the lights and everything else.
Yeah, I know you're in Didsbury a lot. Which is great. Yeah. And do you have a favourite book and a quote that you live by and means something to you? Are you a quotey person, or is there a book that's changed your life?
Well, no, I'd say probably one of my long-standing favourite books is Jane Eyre, because it's a woman's voice, which was probably one of the first feminists, really, speaking out, and I think it's the quote from Gatsby about boats against the currents. I think when you get over 30, you realise that you're going to make mistakes, and you're probably going to keep repeating them through your life. So when I was younger, probably it was Mark Twain, candy is dandy and liquor is quicker, but but that changes as you get older. So,
yes, absolutely. Can we give a round of applause, please? Can I open up the floor?
Hello, I'm Tim.
Hi.
I've got a birthday coming up.
Right. Okay.
I suspect I'm already way too late, but when would you advise people to start planning for their ultimate care?
Well, I do think it's pretty worth having a review where you stand looking into retirement as well.
So before retirement?
Yeah, where you stand financially, and what sort of income you're going to have, guaranteed income, what you want to live on going forward. And, Urmston, not advertising them, but McCarthy and Stone have opened a beautiful new retirement village there. And they're welcoming people in there from age 60, but it's a whole different way of living, and that's the way I think it will transform. For the next generation of going to be elderly, it won't be necessarily staying in their own homes, they'll be moving more into communities and getting more involved, and I think they'll live better, healthier lives being part of an elderly community than most people are quite isolated at the moment. So, but I think it's just worth knowing what your financial, your health check for retirement looks like, and building in that funding as well. So
it's not just about what you need to live on, it's what happens when you need to access care.
Yeah, the average stay, for example, in a care home is 2 years, and 1 in 4 live in a care home for 8 years. So,
about 50,000 a year?
Yes, or more. Yeah, some of them are 1,800 a week. So.
Yeah, Beyond is really expensive, which is on Palatine Road.
Yeah, the Sunshine. But they're all starting with specialists for dementia. So I've got a lady who's, her husband died, and he'd been the main carer, and she's 66 and has Alzheimer's, and she doesn't know anybody. So she's in a home over in Lem. But she may live for another 20, 30 years like that, with Alzheimer's.
Carl?
Yeah, Carl Sabine. And he's picking up on that really, the care homes differences, because we got really frustrated because my mum had to go into a home.
Yes.
We did manage to sell the house to pay for the care, but it was the fact of your expectations of the home as well, because what I was really frustrated with, sometimes we'd go there. I managed to know the code to get on the door even though it was secure, so I'd let myself in. But you could be in there and not see any staff members. And then there'd be days where you'd go in, you'd be there in a room where there's like 20 residents with no staff in that room, because unfortunately, due to what the government has said, that you need to have 4 people with that amount of people, the same schools, with how many teachers you have in proportion. But if 2 people were off dealing with one of the residents who'd done something and another 2 were off doing with another resident, you could be in a room with 20 residents that if someone falls and no one's there to help them or do anything, it should be, for me, I was really frustrated with the fact of how much you're paying, because it was £975 a week for what was pretty basic. I can't fault the care that they gave them because they were doing the best that they could. But the fact that what I couldn't get my head around for that room was, let's say for example it was a swimming pool, you've always got to have a lifeguard on duty. So when you've got that amount of people in a room like that, there should always be someone there to sort of for the care. And that was something I found really difficult to handle, considering you're paying that amount of money, but you just.
I don't know if you saw the recent television programme about the home that's opened in Thailand. And he'd opened, he was looking for a home for his mum, and just decided there was nothing that he wanted for her to go to. So he decided to build a village in Thailand, and it's £750 a week, and there is one-on-one care.
That's £750 a week.
Yeah. But that means that and it's specialist dementia, because he said that his mum wouldn't know him anyway, but he just wanted to make sure that she would be well looked after with one-to-one care. So, and had swimming pools, and I can see that that's the way I think it will be, that people will end up possibly moving abroad to get a more specialised care. you know, and there are some amazing homes around South Manchester, but you know, the fees really start to climb. Yeah.
And yet the staff is still paid minimum wage.
Yes, which is unacceptable. I have a very good friend who's a self-employed barrister who's had a stroke, and so he's in a home in Chorlton. So I've seen exactly what Carl was saying in respect of his mother, that when you go there, you can barely get in, and in the duration that you're there talking to him, he was quite chatty, quite a larger-than-life character. He was a real Rompo's Bailey. It hasn't affected his brain. Interestingly, so he hasn't got dementia, but the care in the home, and so he keeps basically escaping or saying the things wrong with him, because then he gets to go to the hospital where lots of nurses he can flirt with, so on and so forth. Then he gets returned, but he's been self-employed all his life. I dare say, he's had several houses, he's got grown-up children. That he's not planned for any of this, and so the options for him, I think, are quite restrictive, really, all round. I mean, is there a way of, I'm not near retirement, planning for retirement?
But for example, critical illness will pay out if you have a stroke, and things like that. So, but it is just planning for possibly 2 or 4 years in a care home, that you might. But giving assets away doesn't really work, because councils can't afford it. And there is this criteria at the moment called continued. If you've heard of continuing care, where the council will pay if you're poorly enough and need that 24-hour care. But I think the criteria is about to change. Well, now I think it will change, that you have to be probably 2 or 3 weeks terminally ill. That would be it. So to qualify for it. But I mean, in Japan, they addressed this in 2001, and if you're over 40, you pay an extra 10% tax. And that is all going forward for care. And then you enter a retirement village, so if you go in at 65 or something, you then help out in the village and you get credit for much better care, and all your assets are protected. But I can't imagine in this country, if they said you're going to pay 10% tax more when you're over 40, it would go down very well for
And what about but one of the problems here is that the people working in the care homes who are on minimum wage often are migrants or people who have got false documents or whatever. So what we do is we criminalise them, and then we make them sit in prisons that we're paying for anyway, so they're not contributing to the economy, and they're not looking after anybody on their minimum wages. But is there a way, I don't know if in your job you often think about, how can we make the social care problem better? Or what do you come up with any sort of ideas or ways?
I think Norway has one of the best ideas. They mix their elderly care with their childcare. So, where they've got the concentration of carers together, that, they've got the elderly people that want to engage will sit down and be available to read and play games and do drawing and, have that interaction, because when you go into if you've ever been to a care home and a family comes in with children, the whole room stops. They love seeing children,
Or 2 little dogs.
Yeah, or
Loved it.
Yeah. So I think there has to be probably more of that, and also I think the other problem is it's loneliness, people living isolated. There has to be more like in America, where they have more of the retirement villages, where people get to do things together with their peer group and enjoying retirement, or bless them, becoming less isolated as they're getting older, and not interacting and taking up new skills and new hobbies as they retire.
Well, we were going to take DidsburyFM to care home, weren't we? And hold a show there, so the elderly can be in the audience, but it might turn into a bit of a Brexit.
Do you know, my mum she had respiritis, a lovely home, and 2 of the ladies there were land girls, so interesting.
Wow.
And they were still able to tell their stories.
Can I ask a question regarding WI? Obviously, your image of it is the image that people have of it is very sort of still old-fashioned.
Yes, yeah.
Has it moved on, and is it more progressive for younger?
Yeah, there's no, this particular one that I'm a member of, there's no jam in Jerusalem, and it's B Law, it's the B for Manchester, that's the name of the chapter. Yeah, and so they do all sorts of activities, but a lot of it is just about bringing people together. You know, they do board game nights and things like that, so wine club, cocktail club, afternoon tea, and you know, I think the other activities are all free. They're all, you know, I mean, I run the book club, people come to my house, you know, so it's just providing tea and coffee and chatting about books. So,
yeah. Well, I think there's a waiting list for Didsbury, WI, in case you were thinking of joining.
Have they moved on with the times with that yet?
I don't know, I'm not a member. So that answer would be no. Have we got some questions from this side? Sorry, I saw you.
With your leukemia,
yeah.
you had to adjust your diet.
No, I can't have grapefruit, so which I'm not too sad about. So
is that wine? Grapefruit.
No, so wine's okay. So.
Is that because of, forgive me, I thought you meant grapes. Grapefruit interacts with various
Yes, it does, yeah, it does, yeah. So,
And is that the only thing you can't eat?
I think, so apart from that, it's just about, you know, when I first started taking the tablets, it just makes you very, very sick. And then every now and again, out of the blue, you just feel like you just got to lie down and feel so sick. So, for no rhyme or reason. But yeah, no, it's. I think it came out when the tablet came out. It was on the front of Time magazine. It was advertised as the magic bullet for cancer, and that is the original one. But I think that helped to move on to, you know, help to work with AIDS as well. It's one of the drugs that's helped to work with AIDS as well. So, but you know, and they're also looking really more to manage cancers now rather than to cure them. Because often the cure will kill people, so it can be some aggressive. So,
last month, the last DidsburyFM, which some of you were at, we had my son's consultant, he was an oncologist, haematologist, and he was talking about actually blood cancers were a big killer.
Yes.
Now it's one of the cancers that don't get that much recognition. But he was talking about stem cell and genetic. I wondered if that was ever explored with you, one, to find out where the leukemia came from, but two, whether there were any technologies, you know, you can take your own cells, you play with them, and then act against
T cells.
Yeah, T cells. I'm probably simplifying it a bit, but you could do that in adults. He was a paediatric hematologist. But I wondered if that was ever explored.
I think it's so dangerous for adults to have bone marrow transplant. Children are far more susceptible to it, so it's normally, there's been quite a few people that I followed on Facebook who've gone through it and passed away because they just, you know, the bodies can't produce the bone marrow quick enough. So, so it's very much end of the line, you know, when they're offering to adults to have bone marrow transplants. And it's kind of things, you know, I remember him saying to me, you know, when I sort of came back from, you know, being told all this bad news, and then he said, it's okay, there's no mutations. I'm thinking, there's something else to worry about, but, you know. Yeah, so, yeah, I think it's, I don't think about it every day, and just started to take the tablets and keep on going. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have a question from Lantan? Yes, sorry.
I just wondered, did you get any problems accessing insurance following your diagnosis? You said you've had some things in place, presumably like critical illness cover and things.
Yeah, I'd revised all my life cover in the April. So, you know, we were covered because I keep, you know, that's what I do. So, and my husband's just like, sign here, that's fine. You know, no idea what we have, and you know. But so that was all in place. But I think travel insurance for anybody who's had any sort of health complications, it's quite difficult to access. So, and I use World First, which are very good. So they cover most people, even people who are terminal, for their cover. So.
Yeah. And is that quite expensive?
It is. No, it's not very expensive.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just thinking because there's times, sort of stories when you hear people have had the most traumatic things happen in life, and then the response that they get from services when they sort of, you know, have certain scripts to follow and act within the boundaries of their policies and things, is really sort of emotionally like quite hard to take.
Yeah, I think it's one of the funny. I had critical illness, and I think one of the days which was quite hard was when they rang me back and said your policy's going to be paid out next week, and that was very serious, because I think it's you know, because you can't see it, you can't see what I have, you know, you kind of, it's all on paper, you can feel a bit like this, but you know, so that was, you know, it felt very serious at the time. So but I'm just glad I've done the planning and had that in place. It's, but I know I always tell the story because, you know, I'm talking to people coming on board as, you know, those coming as new clients, and it's nobody wants to talk about protection. No, in America they tend to brag about it. You know, I'm insured for this, this, and this, and this country people, you know, don't want to talk about it. And also the phrase that I get is it's dead money, and it's peace of mind. That's all it is. You know, it's just making sure you've got peace of mind for your family.
Good. Well, on a positive note, you're here and alive and well, and we're delighted to meet you, and you're available for any consultations that we might have to check our financial well-being.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So.
Thank you so much for
thank
sharing what you do, what you've been through, and giving us a heads up on planning our futures. I think we're very grateful to you.